Hi, my video today will be shorter than expected. The first thing I want to cover is no surprise the pandemic and the surge of the Omicron variant. Omicron is starting to spread around the world due to a lack of genomic sequencing. That means that many cases are likely to have gone undetected. Days after this new variant of SARS-CoV-2 was identified in southern Africa, countries around the world are confirming that they have found cases of it too. The new strain of the virus B.1.1.529 was first detected in genetic samples from Botswana and South Africa. Nearly 150 cases have been confirmed in southern Africa since, although the true number is thought to be higher. On November 24th, South Africa health authorities announced to the world this news. Countries like Japan, in example, put in place travel restrictions already. I don't want to dwell on this. I shall wait and see the development within the next weeks. If we want to analyze furthermore this issue from a global perspective and multilateral work, I suppose, the research question that we have to put on the table: can Omicron finally get the world to cooperate on pandemic mobility management? With the detection of the COVID 19 Omicron variant in South Africa and its subsequent appearance in more than 20 countries on several continents, the world indeed is once again scrambling to manage the latest pandemic curveball. Some governments have chosen to ban all incoming travel. Others have barred arrivals from several countries, mostly in southern Africa. And yet others have reinstated measures such as mask wearing, vaccine requirements, and digital surveillance. Yet once again, this response has been unilateral and uncoordinated. When we analyze this situation that is related to the travel restriction imposed weeks after the first case or infection was detected, that is likely to be both leaky and too late and unlikely to hold up to any cost benefit analysis. It's very important to examine the contested role of travel restrictions while noting that the curves of mobility are highly unlikely to prevent a dominant variant such as the earlier Delta variant. Sketching a scenario under which such measures can offer a short-term complement to public health and universal travel requirements such as vaccinations and testing. But governments will need to proceed now carefully to ensure that travel bans do not become sticky and outlast their public health benefits. In part because the rule as pandemic theatrics means the political cost of lifting them can be high. Most importantly, the goal would be to achieve global standards for international travel and pandemic management, a reality still elusive after more than 2 years into the public health crisis. Jumping now to another topic to get back really fast on my Throwback Thursday that I tweeted today, that was related to a conference held at the United Nations in 2018, precisely on June the 11th, and it was related to the SDG Finance 72. I remember exactly what Bill Gates said during that conference. It was related to the conditions that will lead to that type of development, and that the fact that there must be a global finance system to support it. I speak about the SDGs. The private sector is not a substitute to public financing, whereas unblocking financing is the next challenge. When I look back at these issues related to the SDGs and the possibility of reaching 2030, I think the most important thing is to keep focusing, as I tweeted before, on realizing as many goals and targets as possible. Now moving to my schedule of work, it's very hectic right now. I just had another conference to attend with the CSIS tomorrow morning, after the one I'm supposed to attend with Unidir earlier morning Swiss time. And before the one of Amazon at CSIS the same day in the afternoon. So looking forward to the cybersecurity conference with Unidir, followed by the events on empowering NATO's technological edge with CSIS, and finally at the same day, like I said, with Amazon, the conference hosted at CSIS related to sparking a revolution in open sources intelligence. After that, I will be looking forward next week to the conference of the Unicity on December the 6th related to video games and violent extremism. So, in order to deliberate this topic, it's very important to get back to the fact that with 2.7 billion gamers worldwide, the growing popularity of video games and their interaction with the other online community has created significant subcultures. Terrorists and violent extremists are increasingly exploiting these expanding spaces in attempts to recruit, radicalize, and disseminate propaganda. The threat is multifaceted, with the terrorists creating new games, modifying existing games, and utilizing adjacent gaming platforms to infiltrate every aspect of the gamer's life. As this threat is growing a concern to member states, the UNOCT is committed to raise awareness and providing programmatic responses to counter this exploitation, as well as exploring opportunities developing the gaming space as a force for good in an effort to prevent violent extremism. So very important to discuss here the reviews and the finding in order to fill gaps in existing knowledge through focus groups that should seek to incorporate different viewpoints on gaming culture. On the upcoming week as well, we have the peacekeeping ministerial that will be held this year in Seoul in the Republic of Korea. And among the important things to mention in this context of action, a focus on the A4P areas of commitment, speaking of peace enforcement, that goes from politics to women, peace and security, protection involving UN peacekeeping, safety and security, performance and security, performance and accountability, peace building and sustaining peace, partnership, conducts of peacekeepers and peacekeeping operations. Among the A4P priorities is the collective coherence behind the political strategy, strategic and operational integration, capabilities, and accountability to peacekeepers, accountability as well to the strategic communication and cooperation with the host countries is a must. The importance to share the new uniformed capability requirements is part of the thematic focus of this peacekeeping ministerial. Like I said, data have changed ever since the latest one in 2019. I will be looking forward also to joining the Schiffer series at CSIS on the 8th of December in order to talk about the nuclear weapons in terms of growing risk. So to remind, over the past 76 years, nuclear weapons delivery systems have become faster, more powerful, and more widespread, and there are more than 13,000 nuclear weapons in 9 countries in the world, with more countries seeking to arm themselves. Moreover, the risk that a leader will make a terrible decision to use nuclear weapons or that a terrorist could get one is growing. Communications channels between nuclear armed nations are atrophying our nuclear weapons, and warning systems are facing new cyber threats. And advances in military technology are proving destabilizing. These factors make it more likely that a leader might make the decision in a moment of crisis to use nuclear weapons based on false warnings of a nuclear attack or other Miscalculation. Each nation, basically, with nuclear arms has a responsibility to reduce the risk of nuclear blunder, and nations must work together to eliminate nuclear risks. Also looking forward to joining the endeavors of the Lawyers Committee on Nuclear Policy that includes the issues related to the US nuclear posture review that is under preparation, and also regarding the January Non-Proliferation Treaty Review Conference at the United Nations in New York. Jumping from nuclear to chemical, I want to get back to the OPCW's conference of the state parties in The Hague, Den Haag, in the Netherlands. So, what have we learned from this year's session? I do believe that the 26th session of the Conference of the States Party of Chemical Weapons Convention, the CSP26, offers an opportunity to discuss the proceedings, the delegates having also the opportunity to offer recommendations for enhancing the OPCW's work in the areas of verification, assistance and protection of international cooperation, and capacity management and outreach. Very clever to invoke the re-emergence of chemical weapon even after the end of destruction. The OPCW's mission will be far from finished. For the past years, the Secretariat has been adapting to face new threats posed by the evolving security landscape. I do believe that the Day of Remembrance of all victims of chemical warfare will be an important time, but this should be a day every time of the year. So, very important in this conference to assess the implementation of the Chemical Weapons Convention, the CWC, and to make key decisions regarding the future of work of the organization. The Conference of the States Party oversees the continued implementation of the Chemical Weapons Convention, the promotion of the treaty's objectives, and reviews international compliance with the treaty. The conference is attended by the representative of all member states of the OPCW, each of which has one vote. All of the implementing body for the Chemical Weapon Convention, the OPCW, with its 193 member states, oversees the global endeavor to permanently eliminate chemical weapons. Since the convention's entry into force in 1997, it is the most successful disarmament treaty, eliminating an entire class of weapons of mass destruction. Over 98% of all declared chemical weapon stockpiles have been destroyed under OPCW verification for its extensive efforts in eliminating chemical weapons. Nevertheless, one must be really vigilant in this context of action. I will also be delighted to join always in The Hague, Den Haag, the virtual event of the ICCT that involve also the seated perspective. It will be related to trends in radicalization, to violence, focusing on key priorities and knowledge gaps. Focus in this context of action as well on what policy concerns and priorities. I laud the efforts of the UNODC related to its policy in Eastern Africa in order to engage with victims. I invoke the example of Kenya. I do believe that it is an important backbone for counterterrorism at a multilateral level. Finally, to conclude my video, I would be as delighted as well to join in next Monday, December the 6th, the presentation of Ian Bremmer regarding the state of the world, covering pretty much the United States and People's Republics of China's relations, how powerful have tech companies become on the global stage. Is there hope for the world to unite to fight climate change and other shared challenges? Stay tuned and enjoy my music.